Appeals to order. Can you, we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call roll?
Members of the board, Kane,
Here.
Grotman,
Here.
Kimball,
Here.
Toth,
Here.
Masterson.
Here.
Members of the administration, Council Liaison Winkle,
Here.
Chief Building Official Furston,
Here. In the hallway.
Here.
Law Director Moriarty,
Present.
Planning and Development Director Lieber.
Okay. Does anybody have any changes to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to accept. Okay, and then Mr. Toth, do you have a planning commission report?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. The City of North Ridgeville Planning Commission took action on 6 items at its regular meeting Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. The first item was an application from City Limits, owner Stephen A. Joseph, proposing to rezone a property located at 39462 Center Ridge Road from I-3 Heavy Industrial District to B3 Highway Commercial District. The application was recommended for approval by a 5-0 vote. The second item was an application from Dries Homes seeking approval of final plat for Phase 1 of the Crossings at French Creek Subdivision, 5725 Avon Belden Road. The application was recommended for approval conditionally by a 5-0 vote based on the applicant satisfying 4 identified contingencies. The third item was an application from Then Design Architecture proposing a new transportation and maintenance center to replace existing facilities for the North Ridgeville City Schools. The 18,500 square foot building will be constructed in the northwestern area of the school's Bainbridge Road campus and is anticipated to be dedicated for use in early 2026. The application was recommended for approval conditionally by a 5-0 vote based upon the applicant satisfying 3 identified contingencies. The fourth item was an application from Then Design Architecture proposing a new 340,000 square foot high school for the North Ridgeville City Schools, complete with parking lots, athletic fields, and other accessory site improvements. This project will seek approval in 3 phases. Phase 1 will be early site work, Phase 2 will be building construction, and Phase 3 will be demolition of the existing high school and final site work. Phase 1 was recommended for approval conditionally by a 5-0 vote based upon the applicant satisfying 3 identified contingencies. The fifth item was review and recommendation of the zoning code diagnosis recently completed by the administration's consultant. This document will be employed as the roadmap for future action in modifying the City of North Ridgeville's zoning codes. Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend for approval. The sixth item was the review and recommendation of the active transportation and safe routes to school plans. These plans were formulated throughout the past year under a grant and supervision from NOACA. Input came from a committee comprised of community stakeholders and primary parties, which convened to focus on providing better connectivity and opportunities for non-motorized means of travel. The public at large was engaged through multiple surveys and open houses, seeking feedback on draft recommendations. These finished documents have been formally accepted by NOACA and will be used by the administration in seeking grant opportunities. Director Lieber also informed the Commission of 3 administrative approvals and zoning certificates. The first being to Ridge Barber Shop 2, 7717 Victory Lane. They received approval of a certificate of zoning compliance for a barber shop. The second was Paws and Spa Pet Salon, 3319 Center Ridge Road. They received approval of a certificate of zoning compliance for a dog salon. And the third was Price Point Construction, 7864 Root Road. They received approval of certificate of zoning compliance for construction services and storage. This concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any other reports or correspondence? None? Okay, we'll move on to the public hearing. Hi.
PPZ 2024-0324 Javier Feliciano, 5884 Rosebell Avenue. PPN 07-00-020-108-019. Proposal consists of a detached garage, property is zone RS2, General Residence District. Request a 308 square foot variance for area of detached private garage. Applicant shows 984 square feet. Code allows 676 square feet. Section 1294.03 D1. Note, garage also exceeds 26 feet in width.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay, can you please come to the podium? I'm going to need to have you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Javier Feliciano. I live on 5884 Roosevelt Avenue, North Ridgeville, Ohio.
Okay, do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is there anybody else that you want to have speak on behalf of this application? Have you brought anybody else with you? Okay. Tell us a little bit about, excuse me, wait 1 second. Ms. Lieber, would you like to present?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This lot is a 50 by 116 foot deep lot, 1.3 acre. It's located in the RS2 district. It's a legal, non-conforming lot. By way of background, in April of this year, building staff had determined that the owner had constructed a garage addition on the property without the issuance of a permit. A citation was issued, a notice of violation was issued at that time in April, and on May 3rd, the applicant had then submitted the permit application as requested in order to obtain approval for that garage. However, during plan review, it was found that the garage addition did not comply with the requirements of the zoning code. So then on June 5th, the city had issued its plan review findings that the garage was both located too close to the side property line and also exceeded the maximum area for a private detached garage given the size of the lot. The applicant was advised to either bring the structure into compliance or to seek a variance from the BZBA. So that was the set of facts that led to the applicant's appearance before you on July 25th, 2024. At the time, there were two variance requests, one for side setback from the north property line, and the second was the size of the garage. Both variances were denied. Since then, the applicant has made changes to the previous proposal. The setback is shown on the drawing to be conforming at 6 feet from that side, which is the north side property line. Additionally, we did some further research back into the history of this property. We found historically that back in 1978, there was a variance that was granted for the south side, which kind of explains, I was trying to figure out how the math worked with the current garage, the addition of the garage, and the described setback. So that helped to make sense of some of those numbers for that 50-foot wide lot. However, the area of the outbuilding continues to exceed code requirements. 984 square feet is proposed and 676 square feet is permitted. Also, just by way of background, in 2015, a home occupation permit was issued for this property to allow a towing business. The applicant had previously appeared before the BZBA in March 2017 requesting approval to allow a second work vehicle on the property, which was denied. And that's just to give you more record of previous actions by the BZBA. And that concludes my introduction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Furston, did you have anything to say?
Not at this time.
Mr. Moriarty, did you have anything you wanted to?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, go ahead and present your case to us, sir.
I did the reappeal for bring the 2 foot in, and I made a plan. As of right now, I'm starting to work on it. I already supposed to lift in there. I already took that down to proceed with my with bringing it in as it was required.
Okay, and you didn't, so you're gonna move the wall of?
Yeah.
You're gonna move the wall in?
Yeah, I'm gonna not only 1 foot, but I'm gonna move it about 2.5 foot.
Okay,
About 2.5.
all right. Does any of the board members have any comments, questions?
I do have one thing I'd like to point out, Madam
Okay.
Chair. One question I have, and I think this is more for the city than you, sir, is the lot directly to the south. Reading on the variance that was granted in the 70s talks about a possible future expansion of the road. Well, that's never going to happen. Why hasn't the thought of vacating that to allow him to have an extra additional 20 foot? Because it's a 40-foot wide lot, so if you vacate it, each to the north and south would each grant 20 feet gain to their property. Couldn't that help this situation immensely?
Madam Chair, I can respond.
Please.
Typically, street vacations are initiated by adjacent property owners via petition. And those adjacent property owners then bear the cost of the required surveying and work that goes into that. Otherwise, the city would bear a lot of costs.
No,
of
I
street
agree.
vacations, so.
He should definitely pay for it if that's something that he would want to do. But if, in theory, if that was to happen, we'd have a conforming lot, and then we'd have considerably larger parcel than what he has right now, to the point where it wouldn't be unrealistic if we were talking about a detached garage and a shed on the same property.
I would say that the lot might be conforming, but the size of the outbuilding would still require variance.
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Furston, did you want to add anything?
I don't believe by vacating, getting half of that right-of-way would take him greater than a half-acre lot.
It
So
would
he'd
not. He would
have the
still need a
same
variance, but
scenario.
it would be a lesser of a variance, in theory, than what it is on a 50-foot sublot.
The variance is based on the square footage,
I
not
understand
on the
that.
lot size.
I completely understand that, sir. But what I'm saying is, if we were, as a board, were to look at this at a 70-foot wide lot instead of a 50-foot wide lot, that might change the thought of the zoning board versus a 40-whatever foot outbuilding on a 50-foot wide lot.
I see.
That's all my point. And there is the option of doing that. I don't know if that's something you've ever considered.
I don't know if I'm understanding right. You're talking about between my house to
The
right?
south. So if you're standing at the street looking at your house to
Yeah,
the
I
left.
filed for that a while back, like when I first moved in.
Yeah.
You're talking about because I guess the way that's gonna work, if I'm correct, it's gonna be half for him, or half for him and half for myself.
Correct.
And we both have to file.
Yeah, it would be costs that you and your neighbor would have to incur.
Yeah, but I think. Also
And I'm
I
not
think-
saying that solves the problem. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely not the solution. You'd still need to get a variance.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of the zoning board looking at it, you have a very large structure on a very narrow lot, essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
it's big.
Let's say after 7 years, I can file for it, and we only have to file for the motion. We don't have to pay actually for the lot. So I have to, after 7 years of living there.
I don't know anything about the 7 years.
Yeah, so I had to go back. I had to research that again.
Yeah, that
We
may
did
be
file
something
for
to
it, but
talk
we-
to
yeah.
an attorney or an engineer about. But I was just pointing it out that it's there, and that would change things from the math that we do as a board, because this is a large ask. I mean, to put it mildly, it's a big request for a building this size on a lot that sized. It's just something I saw. I just wanted to bring up and discuss.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments, questions, concerns?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sir, looking at the drawings you had given us, I had a couple of questions I'd like to make sure I've got the correct information here. The overall height of your structure here, I believe you have that at 16 feet.
15, I believe.
I think the drawing I have here is at 16, but
Supposed to be 15.
is that a 6?
I read it as a 6.
It appears to be a 6 for your It's your
I
peak.
don't have that in front of me. Supposed to be 15.
Okay,
Yeah, have 6.
it's a 6.
Madam Chair, is the question, like, does the height exceed code requirement from,
Ultimately, yes.
how height is measured is not to the peak of a pitched roof, it's to the midpoint of that angled roof. I forget what the type of roof it is.
It's a gable roof.
Gable roof. So we don't measure from the highest point, but the midpoint between the wall and the highest point of that gable
Okay.
roof. So it does comply.
At this height, Mr. Ferdson, does that meet code?
Yes, sir. We actually physically measured this, and it is less than 15 feet in height to the midpoint.
Okay, thank you. The width of the garage, I believe I have here at 41 feet overall.
I do not have this paperwork in front of me, so I don't.
I
Mr.
believe-
Feliciano, here, you can use mine.
Let's see here. Yeah,
41 feet?
yes.
The width is, okay. Mr. Ferdson, is 41 feet, does that meet our code?
That's what he's asking for, the variance of the size.
Right.
The code says 26 by 26 or 676 square feet. So you could have something 28 feet by 20-some feet as long as it's under the 676. He's over the 676, that's the variance he's asking for. He's at 900 and some square feet.
Yes, sir. However, the 41 feet in width is non-code, is non-conforming, correct?
It's an either or. It can be
Okay.
26 by 26 or 676.
Okay. And last, the square footage we have at, the drawing show 984,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And our code is 676 feet, I believe?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So I have a series of questions, and my questions are more for the city. If we go back to the aerial view, so is there any way to show the larger parcel that's behind this? Because there's a huge subdivision that's going in right now, Dries.
The property behind is not part of that subdivision. There is like a field area, but it's not part of that subdivision.
Some subdivisions here. And that's the lot that you're talking
Okay.
about.
However, there is vacant property that okay, to restate my question, is the city planning, is there any plans to extend that street?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
They would have to take this person's backyard or something.
okay, what about Rosabelle going into, Rosabelle is dead-ending into Dries?
It will connect ultimately to a road in that development.
So that is, we're going to connect Rosabelle into the new Dries subdivision?
Yes,
So that's my question?
yes.
Sir?
You might want to look at the county and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that Drake can be extended into that area because the property behind there takes half of that right-of-way.
That's what Sean was just pointing out
So
to me.
it's not wide enough to extend a right-of-way up in there. So it'd be best, in my opinion, to vacate it, but that's their request to make.
I have the county map pulled up, so Linda can see that as well, or the
Can we-
chairperson, actually.
There's- No, then
and-
don't worry about it.
And the reason I brought up the vacating was because the lot that butts up to them on one of the neighboring streets covers up that section of the road. So that section of Drake can never be extended. So my thought was to potentially if you'd be interested in vacating.
And I am, yes, I love to. And also,
you know-
I like to buy behind my property too.
As someone who sat on the board for a long time, if I was looking at this and it was a 70-foot wide lot versus a 50-foot wide lot, I definitely would look at things a little bit differently. Not saying how anyone else would think or vote. We're all independent, but
Hopefully I can.
it would be more of a realistic ask, because there's been plenty of times people have came in with slightly larger lots and asked for one larger barn versus two, because per the city code, you're allowed to have a detached garage and a shed of both of the 26 by 26. So a lot of people come in and say, I'd just like to put them together and have one. But those are on lots that are bigger than 50 by 116. I live on a smaller lot too, right around the corner from you. So I'm aware of, the size that you have there, and
Yeah, that little corner is
you've
growing.
maxed out what you got there. That's for sure. To the point where it is somewhat detrimental to the area, and that's a big concern for the board. But if it was a little bit bigger lot and that street was vacated, that may change things for people's view down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's, Mr. Furston, did you want to add anything, or no? Ms. Lieber? No. Okay. All right, so you've agreed to move in the wall.
Yes,
Did you consider reducing the size of the garage at all?
yeah, that'll be reduced by, I'm taking a 2.5 foot in.
Okay.
I already took out there was a lift in there, so I already took it down. But I need a little bit of time to be able to do that, since we're going into real winter time right now.
The issue before us is, and the board members are doing a really good job of saying this, you're asking for a really large variance on a very small piece of property. And while I understand, I'm trying to think of a good way of putting this. So the problem is you wouldn't even be here in front of us had you submitted plans and gotten a building permit. You built a structure without permits. You took a risk when you did that, okay? I am not a fan of asking for forgiveness after you've done something.
Right.
You are a business owner. You should know how to run a business. And you should know that building permits are required for any structure whenever you're building it.
I just didn't know there was like being an attached building. I didn't know. I always got permit for any little other stuff
And
that
it's a building, and you were running electric, and I mean, it's reasonable to know that you needed a building permit up for a garage, let alone a house. A shed, I can understand, but a building of this size, you're making a huge investment in something, and you're gonna wanna make sure that it's built correctly, and you're gonna wanna make sure that it's inspected correctly. So, taking into consideration the Duncan factors, what I can do is, what I have been doing is reading them and giving a response. Can the property yield a reasonable return, or can there be any beneficial use of the property without the variance? I do agree that it can be used without the variance. You already have another garage on the property. Is the variance substantial? Yes. The size of the garage significantly exceeds what's allowed under the zoning code. You're pretty much building you're at max. The garage you're building is large, and it's larger than the home, and it's larger than most structures in the neighborhood. Will the essential character of the neighborhood be substantially altered, or will adjoining properties suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance? It's a subdivision made of very small lots. It sticks out. Will Will the variance adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, water, sewer, garbage? No. Did the property owner purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions? The zoning requirements predate ownership, so yes. The property did purchase the property with knowledge of the restriction. Can the property's owner's predicament be precluded through some method other than a variance? You can always make it smaller. I'm not, and then the last question is, would the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance? If we grant the variance, you're asking us for an awful lot of, you're asking for a lot. And I don't understand what your difficulty is, because basically practical difficulty is, you know, you built the structure without a permit. So is there any way that you can think of making this building any smaller?
That's what I'm here for, I'm here to get a variance to bring it in 2 foot, so
No,
Yeah,
what you
compliance.
did was removed, so when you originally came to us, you needed 2 variances. Now you only need 1. So you did make the building smaller, but you didn't, it's still quite large. It's bigger than you're allowed to build. Even if you would go and apply for a building permit, how large of a building could he build without asking for variances, Mr. Fursden?
I'm guessing approximately 24 by 28 to get to that 676 number. And he's at 24 by 41.
Ms. Lieber, do you have anything to add?
Just that I did not see anything included in the applicant's submittal that really talked about the practical difficulties of the lot or provided input as to any of the Duncan factors to support the request. There's kind of just been no statement of why the need.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Winkle, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Madam Chair, I spoke with some other council members about the topic. The main point that we had would be is that with the changes that they made, look at this as a new application, but our thoughts were, this is not really relevant to your question. What's our feeling on it?
So you're giving me an answer if you're not answering. Okay. So yes, because basically we aren't allowed to hear the same variance request because we turned you down for the first one. So you had to do something to make it a new application. Mr. Moriarty, do you have anything you'd like to add?
You know, I know that when we were, reviewing the second submission, the fact that one of the variances was off, as well as there's a reduction in the square foot, we thought that was at least a substantial change in the initial one to again get here before the BZA. I would just stress that if you've got information or anything, like when we spoke about this, you were explaining things to me that it doesn't seem like you're explaining to the board. And I think, I'm not gonna make your arguments for you, but when you're talking about getting permits beforehand, you need to explain why you didn't. This is the time to do it. If you've got other documents or any other people here on your behalf, this is the time that you're supposed to present that to the board.
why I didn't get the permit?
Well, it came
I
up and.
keep asking you why you
Yeah.
didn't.
I didn't know for an attached garage that I had to do it. I didn't know that. Well, since I've been in business over here, I always got everything through here. Everything. I didn't know. If I knew, trust me, I don't want this problem. I'm a small business just trying to make it in life. That's all I am. That's all I am. I'm not trying to make problems. I get up every day to work. That's all I do. You know, Didn't know. If I knew, trust me, I would have did it. I would have did it. I would have did it.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on behalf of this matter? Would you please come up to the podium so I can swear you in? Hi, can you state your name and your address, please?
Jeff Greenberg, 5932 Sandalwood Avenue.
Okay, can you please raise your hand? Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of law of perjury?
I do.
Okay,
So, I'm the owner of the property behind his home. You said about that piece of land.
yes,
That Dries is next to me.
correct.
I bought that land because I knew that Dries was moving in and I didn't want my neighbor in my backyard. So I bought all that land back there. Okay. From where I am to where he's building his garage, if it means anything, it doesn't matter to me.
Where do you, I'm sorry.
I'm at 5932. I'm down the street from him on Sandalwood in that cul-de-sac.
Oh, okay.
He's one of these.
So you're one of the houses in the cul-de-sac?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I'm the one that touches all the properties back there. That's why I'm here, because I'm a property owner that touches that property. He's my neighbor in my backyard,
Okay,
up off of Drake.
okay.
Okay. So I'm just here just to say, if it means anything other than whatever the board is going to decide on, it's not going to encroach on my property.
To be clear, in the cul-de-sac, there's 3 houses in the cul-de-sac. Yours is, if you're.
To the right.
To the right
To the
or
left,
to the left?
yeah.
It's, so your property doesn't look onto his property,
I can see it through the backyard,
but your backyard, okay.
but I'm just saying, I can see it through the backyard in the winter.
Okay. All right,
So if that means anything, I mean, he's not over top of me, he's not encroaching on me, but I'm here because I was, asked to come to talk about, his garage, and I'm one of the neighbors that I'm in the backyard.
all right. So I have another question.
Because you had mentioned about maybe you can go farther back.
No, I mentioned about there's a street, a paper street, and then Chairman or Vice Chair Kimball pointed out that, so you're on this side of the cul-de-sac, the house on the other side of the cul-de-sac, it takes up part of that. They can't put the street in without attaching other properties.
Right.
So there's
right.
multiple.
And I knew
properties.
that too when I bought that property. I knew that it wasn't wide enough for a street and sidewalk, and Drake cannot go through into that property, so that's why I invested in buying that property. Also knowing that, the property was being all sold, the farmland, eventually. So a couple years ago, I bought that property.
Okay.
Just for the deer, so they can stay there, which they're right there now.
Okay.
Somebody's got to protect the deer, the wildlife,
Okay.
and that's what I did.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming up and talking to us. So I have another question for the law department, I believe. So when you're looking at the aerial photo, Mr. Feliciano is using property that isn't his. Can I ask that this matter be tabled for 6 months to see if Mr. Feliciano and his neighbor can vacate the property?
Still does not change the fact that need a variance.
And I know that I just would feel more comfortable. This is a very large variance. I don't know how the board would vote.
In
I-
response to, I was gonna say in response to that, I mean, the board can, table anything at once. I wasn't quite sure exactly what you were asking me about the properties being shared or vacated.
If they vacate it, both adjacent properties have to do it, or can one property absorb the entire street? It's still buildable. Sir, sorry.
I believe one
Yeah, I-
property owner can request the vacation. If city council so chooses to vacate it, then each adjoining property owner would get half of the right-of-way, which is 40 feet. So he would get an additional 20 feet on his property. As Vice Chairman Kimball had indicated, he'd now have a 70-foot wide property if city council chose to vacate it.
Would he still need the same variance?
Yes, he would.
Okay, so, but it would just give him more, it would just clean up, it would get a piece of property out of the city's name and into private hands.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I mean, the applicant has not presented to the board tonight his interest in pursuing a street vacation. And while it might make a difference if the lot were larger in some of the decisions of individual board members, it doesn't change the variance that's being requested. And I don't believe that it's probably a good practice to table something pending than the applicant having to engage in additional applications, interactions, legislative process that may or may not occur when you have a case pending before you where they have not proposed that action as part of their approach to improve their case before the board.
Do any other board members have any other comments, questions, or concerns? Do you have anything else you'd like to add, sir?
So basically just so we understand, is that I'm getting the variance to bring it 2.5 foot in, when the variance was a foot, but I'm still bringing it 2.5 foot in. So basically, the variance that I'm asking for is that 300 and, um, 308 foot variance is what I'm asking, because it's 984, and they accept 675, so I'm asking for the 308, bringing it 2.5 foot in.
For 45% increase. Correct. That's correct. That's the variance that's in front of us.
Yes.
So is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on behalf of this matter anymore? So, and if you don't have any more testimony, what I'm going to do is call for a vote. Okay?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
one comment that the applicant is failing to make, maybe he's not aware of this. We asked him why he didn't get the permit. He told us he didn't realize he needed one. His expertise is in automotive and towing. We asked him, why didn't your contractor tell you you needed a permit? He didn't have an answer. When he tried to contact his contractor, he's vanished. So he's not telling you that aspect. He did tell us that. So
And
whatever
I
it's,
paid him cash money. He didn't want. Like I said, I'm a humble. People who knows me, who I am. I'm not here to just a small businessman trying to make it in this rough life. That's
So just a bit of advice, whenever building something, whenever you're paying a contractor to do something, never pay them in cash. Always have a contract.
trust my CPA hits in the back of my head all the time.
Okay, so I will make a motion based on, I make a motion based on all of the testimony that I have to deny the variance.
Second.
Okay. And to be clear, I said to deny, so, okay, we all know how to vote, what that means. Will the clerk please take a roll?
Kane,
Yes.
Grotman,
yes.
Kimball,
No.
Toth,
Yes, with comment?
I'm sorry,
Yes, with a comment.
okay.
And I would like to say that the reason why I'm voting affirmative in denial of this application is the size of the variance being requested and the impact that it has on the neighboring properties. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I say something?
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion fails 4-1.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All my neighbors agree. I got signatures.
I'm sorry. Will the clerk please, call the next case?
PPZ 2024-0325, The Crossing at French Creek, 5725 Avon Beld Road, PPN 07-000-019-000-010. Proposal consists of an entrance sign. Property is Zone R1 Residence District. Request: a 4-foot variance for height of an average entrance sign. Applicant shows 10 feet, code allows 6 feet, section 1286.11 F3.
Is there anybody here? Okay, would you please come to the podium, state your name and your address so we can swear you in?
Yeah, my name is Mario Halassa. Address is 155 North Highland Avenue in Akron.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to tell us a little bit about your application?
Yeah, so I am here on behalf of Matt Schmall. So we are building the sign out front. According to the city's code, it cannot exceed 6 feet. I think our variance was asking for 10 total feet with a 2-foot base, which makes the sign 8 feet tall.
I'm so sorry. Will the staff please read
Thank
their
you.
comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant pointed out that tall element of the sign, because it's attached to the sign, contributes to the overall height of the sign. So code allows 6 feet, they're showing 10 feet. I'd like to point out that the sign copy itself, so the area that would count towards sign area is just that area of text, and that is about 8.85 square feet. So they're still well under the allocation of square footage for the copy area of the sign, and it's really what I consider a decorative element. You know, the height limit is established to ensure that these entrance signs are designed well into the entry landscaping and features of a development. In this case, I think the sign copy is relatively modest, and I don't believe that open element detracts from the aesthetics, or it doesn't impair visibility, and I think it actually adds a nice overall artistic element to the neighborhood. So it has my support. Thank you.
Mr. Furston, did you have something to say?
With the open structure, you can see through most of it. It has very little impact on the surrounding area.
Okay, thank you, sir. Law Department, do you have anything to say? Brian?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. Mr. Winkle?
Not at the time, Madam Chair.
Okay, sorry. Go on with your application.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're just asking for the variance on height. So we could build it. And like you said, it's more of an aesthetic thing. We just thought it looked better, a little bit larger.
Does the board members have any comments, questions, concerns?
Madam Chair, I have one comment if I could.
Sure.
One thing that I do want to point out is that my feeling is that there would not be any sort of visual obstruction by the way the sign is positioned and angled in conjunction to the road. It's meant to be seen as you're pulling in the development and from the main road driving. I don't see how this would be any sort of safety issue or or any negative could come about it. I think it's a well thought out design that is appealing.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, as the trees develop in the landscape, it's gonna fit right in with the sign, the see-through. I don't see any issues with it.
Anybody else?
Yes, Madam Chair, I echo both Member Smolik and Member Kane's comments on this sign.
Okay. So anyways, reviewing of the Duncan factor. Can this property yield a reasonable return, or can there be any beneficial use without this variance? Property can be continued to be used without this variance. Is the variance substantial? The additional height is more than what's allowed by code. However, everybody has continued to make the point of it's open. It's kind of like the outline is what exceeds code.
Yeah.
Will the essential character of the neighborhood be substantially altered, or will adjoining properties suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance? No, and I would agree with the comments that it's a really attractive sign. Usually you don't notice signs being attractive. This is actually kind of nice. Did the property owner purchase the property with the knowledge? Yes, zoning's been there. Can the property owner come to a different conclusion other than the variance? Yes, you can, but I really do think it's a classy, artful sign.
Thank you.
Would the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement be observed in substantial justice done by granting the variance? The height limit is based on, we don't want to block views. We keep bringing this up. It's not blocking the view. So, seeing that there's nobody in the audience that wants to talk on this matter, I am going to make a motion to accept.
Second.
Will the clerk please call roll?
Kane,
Yes.
Grotman,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Toth,
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right, and then one final piece that I would like to say. I would like to acknowledge what an extremely attractive family is in the audience. And I want to thank Vice Chairman Kimball for all the years that we've been together and your service to the city.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Thank you, everybody, for a great year. I hope you have very happy holidays and year 2025.
Okay.
You won't see me. This is it.
Hey, we'll see you around town.
Yeah, this is his final meeting.
This
Yeah,
is
this
it.
is his swan song.
20 years.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Madam
Okay.
saying that, it's a lot of work you put into the city, just to make the world a better place. It's acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sean, a job well done. Well
I
done.
appreciate it, Guy.
All right. I adjourn this meeting.